Important thing. We're here to do a nice discussion and review, so expect spoilers. We're going to be doing episode 3, the Oathbreaker of Game of Thrones season 6. But yeah, this is quite an episode. CH, I thought of you a good amount of the time when I was watching this, especially scenes on during the wall.
Sorry.
Oh my.
For some reason, I hate automatically playing ads. But yeah, along the wall, Jon gets his revenge.
It seemed like a bittersweet revenge, but it was revenge nonetheless.
I like how he stepped, like, he couldn't have done that responsibility unless he was Lord Commander. And then as soon as it was done, it's like, okay, now I'm done. Thanks, everyone. I got my revenge on these assholes, and now I'm done.
I mean, he served his purpose. I mean, he served the Night's Watch until he died, and he's brought back to life again, and he has another chance at having a more prominent, I guess, life. The Wall didn't really seem to be the way that he didn't even want to go to the Wall anyways. I mean, it wasn't even his ideal plan. It just kind of ended up happening that way, just for the sake of Catelyn Stark not really liking him, and just he hadn't really no place in Winterfell, so just kind of how it ended up being. And now that he's come back from the dead, he's really doesn't have much of an obligation to stay at the Wall at this point. A lot of it is just at this point is more, I guess, independently teaming up with the wildlings, maybe, with just figuring out how to deal with this ever-growing issue that's going to eventually build up of trying to survive against the White Walkers. So you're just there's a lot going on with that, and no one's even paying attention to this. Everyone's off doing their own thing right now.
Yeah. It's surprising that I think the biggest thing that upsets the Game of Thrones universe is that, like, isn't the fact that so many people who are important and good die, it's that somebody is brought back to life. Life being introduced into this universe is terrifying to the entire cast of the Game of Thrones actors.
Oh, yeah.
We got a little bit more of Sam as he traveled across the sea. Nice little scene of setting up where they're going, and really just like Sam that's probably the weakest part of this episode, where it was like, they're doing well and they're happy together, and they're going back to Sam's family's homestead, I assume.
Yeah, I mean, originally the plan was for him to go to Old Town, I believe. I guess that's where, I don't know if it's the same area, but that's where he's supposed to go to the Citadel so he can train. Apparently, he's supposed to be studying to be a maester, but apparently the Citadel doesn't allow. It only allows men there, so he'd rather be able to be alongside of Gilly with his family, and and it's always been mentioned in the books that he doesn't really have a good relationship with his dad. I guess because his dad resents him for not taking up the sword. So his mom and is more not as strict on him as his dad, so he figured that Gilly would be better off with them. She's more comforting and loving. So that's what they headed to. They headed to the Hornhill, his ancestral home, Hornhill.
Yeah, and I assume we're gonna have some turns. The only problem with the Game of Thrones universe is that when you predict the worst, that's probably what's going to happen 90% of the time, where it's like, it would really ruin the romanticism of the scene or the uplifting, optimistic side of the scene, it would be this, and then that happened.
I have a feeling too, and it's gonna be interesting to see how that progresses, and if we'll see maybe more of a growth, or maybe some sort of maybe decay on maybe Sam's ideal fibers. And I like the scene because I think he was mentioning that he was saying like I don't care about anybody, but and then I do, but I don't.
It's a confusing scene in a series of we haven't even we have the episode also tied back to Bran's story.
Yeah, there's a couple of things leading up to that. Let's organize ourselves. We'll go scene by scene just to kind of keep this consistent. Luckily, I have the wiki up so I can remember a good chunk of what happened. Because there's again, this is a good show. Don't get me wrong. Like there's so much going on. Like I lose track of time, and then the next thing I know, what the fuck? The show's over again. What the hell? I was like, it's the same thing. I wrote about this on the site. I wrote a bit on the site regarding my thoughts on the episodic Hitman, and by the end of each episode, I feel the same way as I do about Game of Thrones. It just ends. It's like, oh man, what the hell? Where can we? Where can this go from here? Because it's like I'm so frustrated with it because there's little to no indication, and especially with the way that the release schedule is, there's no indication on where anything is headed to in terms of story. There's I tell you, there's little to nothing right now that I can really tell you about what's going on in the story. It's just more gameplay than story at this point for this entitlement. But this is how it ties it to the Game of Thrones, because a lot of things go down, and then by the end of the episode, you don't even realize it's the end until you see the credits. It's like, oh shit, that's it.
There's no point of bridging to tie into another episode. It's it's continuing in the other episode.
Yeah, it's I like it, and then I'm also frustrated by it because I'd rather just freaking marathon the whole thing. If it was just all available in this whole chunk, I'd watch the hell out of the whole thing. Just kind of the way it is right now is really, really serialized. Than mostly any other show. At least other shows, they leave you a little bit with something and then more to look forward to. But it's always this one is always building up to something and progressing a little bit, very slowly. But it's all leading up to something. So we'll go back to the wall. Jon wakes up after his awakening. He slowly sits up and scans the room. And he's just more of a befuddlement of his resurrection. Yeah, and shocked. And
and everyone else around him is well, actually, that part comes a little bit later. But we have Davos and Melisandre's oh, what'd you see in the Divine Beyond? And he just goes, nothing. Damn it, that's disappointing. And then they still just well, you probably didn't see anything because you probably know nothing, Jon Snow, and you're probably not wise enough to understand what was going on then. And so Melisandre's now putting her expectations that she had for Stannis on Jon.
We saw how that worked out, so I don't know if it would be wise to jump the gun, Melisandre. I think it's time for you to take a back seat at this point and not rely too much on the Lord of Light right now, because we still got some things to work on. But hey, it did help him. It did help bring him back. He doesn't seem unchanged right now. We'll have to delve into more of that maybe in the next episode. We'll maybe start to see more, but he seems much like himself right now, other than just him being shocked about being resurrected and just going through the motions of his pains right now, being stabbed.
Oh, he is confused as hell.
Yeah,
because he's dealing with the fact that he was betrayed by his guard. He's like, I died, and when he finally emerges from his slumber, and everybody's looking around him in pain, just confused, and then Tormund comes over to him. It's haha, it's you are not a god, I know. Because, like, no god would give you that small of a cock. Ha 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 ha. It's like, dude, I died like 5 minutes ago. Will you give me like 10 seconds to comply with the situation?
Plus,
it was a funny
cold.
scene.
That was cold and I was naked.
We're at the wall, okay? It is cold as hell.
Yeah,
then,
so they had that little back and forth there, and then sometime later, there John oversees like the public hanging for the traitors of Castle Black. We had Bowen Marsh, Othwell Yarwick, Alistair Thorne, and CH's favorite character Ollie.
Oh, I love him. I can't get enough of Ollie, and to be honest, I will take that frame of his. We'll talk about that later. So yeah, he asked them all what their last wishes is. Very respectful because of course it's Jon Snow, and if there's anything this entire universe of Game of Thrones hates, it's somebody who's respectful and kind. And it's all of them are just like, fuck you, Jon Snow. You will you get a message out to my family? And Jon just like taking it all in. Even Thorne's like, yeah, if I had to do it again, I kind of hope I'd do the same thing. And it's like, well, I'm not sad that you're going to die. And then he goes to Ollie. Ollie doesn't say anything. He just looks at Jon madly. It's like, dude, you have no reason to be mad at me, okay? You killed me. You got your anger out, so now I can get mine out.
Yeah.
And he goes over to the rope, cuts it, they all hang, they all die. And, that frame of Ollie dead, I just want to hang that in front of my mantelpiece. Just like, hey, everyone, look at this. See what happens when you're a traitorous backstabber like Ollie?
Yeah, it seemed like it was a bitter. I don't think it was anything sweet. It was more of it was a bitter moment for him to do that. He felt more. I think it seemed like he felt very disappointed about what had occurred, but he had to make an example of him. It seemed I initially thought that he would not have done it. I figured that he would have forsaken him. That's what's that word? God damn it! That I figured that he would give him the benefit of the doubt and understand where they were coming from, and just kind of give him mercy on that. I figured that would happen, but may not have been the outcome most people would have been excited about. How did you feel about that? I know you were. I was thinking about it just when they were hanging. It's like, oh, CH is probably like having a ball right now.
I was like Willy Wonka when one of the kids were storming out of the factory. Like, no, stop, don't go. These I understand it was actually no. I hated Ollie because he A, killed Jon, B, betrayed the vows. I can understand his anger because at the Wildlings for killing his family and Jon making peace with them, but that's just kind of like overdoing it. Like, if you're angry at the Wildlings, then go just kill Tormund in his sleep, because he was the one who raided and pillaged your lands. And the problem is, I didn't know Ollie well enough to actually make it a lasting character who I liked. And I think it was just more of like the shock of you're sentencing a child, essentially, to death, to hang.
Right.
And, my personal feelings of Ollie aside, I don't think that they wrote him well enough to be like, oh, man, like, it wasn't like a Sam-like character where they spend time to flesh him out really, really well and give him a characterization outside of his resentment of the Wildlings to make him memorable.
It's true. That's a very good point. We didn't have much of an investment on him to have had that impact. Honestly, if it was Sam that had done it, that would have been a tremendous freaking shock to me.
Yeah,
it would have been hard to see him. It would have been even a hell of a scene to watch him just cut that rope and watch him hang. That would have been a good way to end the episode. That would have been crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. There wasn't much development with him.
No,
to have much of a whole shock or just awe what had occurred. But I could see where he was coming from. But that's what the show's about. Like, a lot of people, a lot of the logic that they have may not seem rational to us, but it seems rational to them, and just the way it's written, it's very, very well done. It gets under my skin a good amount of times, but intentionally gets under my skin.
Yeah, it the problem with the Game of Thrones writing is I feel like they need to go dark for the sake of it, rather than because it naturally fits the story, as to something like, say, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, where it is a very dark and depressing and mature land, but they write it in so it's not just like beating you over the head with it, and that's, continuation of my personal criticisms of the show overall. I really liked where it ended on the wall, where it was, John, before that, actually, where he admits that he doesn't know if he's any different, where, his buddy in arms asks him, like, hey, I mean, like, is it still you? And he says, I think it is. And them just acknowledging, like, people are aware that, like, when you come back from the dead, it might not be you, or it might be a vengeful version of you, or something, perverted or something. And I like the fact that it is hopefully still John, because he is the only one of leadership role who is still inherently decent.
I guess inherently not corrupted by power, in a way, as a lot of other characters are more just fueled by the pursuit of power and everything and anything in the lands of the seven kingdoms of the seven gods.
Yeah,
and all that shit with the long ass titles. But afterwards, John moves on from the hanging and takes off his cloak and hands it to Ed with 2 D's, as Wikipedia will say here.
Double D.
And then John says that he can do whatever he wants with his cloak, and then pretty much unofficially designating Ed as the Lord's Commander of the Night's Watch, and then leaves the courtyard, saying his watch is ended, and then while the other brothers just look on in shock. Mm-hmm. So it looks like he's officially out of the Night's Watch, and it seems like he's going to be on his way out, possibly. Mm-hmm. We may get a scene where Sansa just makes it to the wall, and Lord and behold, he's not there anymore.
That's the worst case scenario, so I definitely feel like that's going to happen.
And honestly, I don't feel like there's going to. As much as I like to see them, I like to see Arya be able to reunite with Jon more than Sansa. But I feel like even if they do, what else could really happen? What else could they do together? Honestly, Sansa has been much of a disappointment and lackluster. Just even in the books, a lot of her stuff is just depressing. I can't even sit through reading them.
She's a reactionary character.
She's much reactionary, and it's such a. I don't know who was intentional. I guess it is, but it's just such a shame because they hyped her up to being this Sansa 2.0, and then they just got crushing down once she ended up in the hands of Ramsey, and just been back to where she was again, almost a little bit better improved, but not a little bit better off than she was with Joffrey, but still no better.
Yeah, I mean, just like being between Joffrey, Littlefinger, and Ramsey, she has absolutely no luck with the men in her life.
Right, no luck, and like I was mentioning, even if her and Jon reunite, it'd be an interesting, cool moment, but I don't know, it won't really have much impact.
Honestly, it'll be like a small spark of hope.
It'll be a small spark of hope, but evidently there's a lot more things to worry about rather than retaking back Winterfell at this point. Mm. And it's I don't know. It's like there's a lot more important things to worry about than taking back Winterfell. That's kind of like the main point I'll keep emphasizing. Yeah,
I agree, but there's something that feels like Sansa will retake the North So I don't even know why. It's just, I feel that like she will retake the North. Arya, she. Oh yeah, that's another scene. But she seems to have gotten a better handle of the magic center of the No Face God. So I think there's good things in store for them.
Right. So that happens. John resigns from the Night's Watch, and we'll have to see where he ends up going on the next episode if he decides to be leaving the Wall, and where his next step goes from here. We've already talked about a little bit about Sam and Gilly headed to Sam's hometown of Thornhill, so we'll kind of pass over that. We go beyond the Wall, and then we get back to Bran having his visions of the past again. So having
more exposition.
More exposition, and that may lead to something more greater, hopefully. We have a vision of the past, the Tower of Joy in Dorne, shortly after the end of Robert's Rebellion. The last two of the Targaryen Kingsguard stand before the tower and block the way at the small party of the Northmen, led by a young Eddard Stark.
The guy looked exactly like a young Sean Bean.
And he had the same, mannerisms, too.
Yeah. And I was surprised when he didn't die in the scene. He's like, don't you know you're Sean Bean's heir? You're supposed to die in everything that you're in.
That's later on. Later on in Season 1. But pretty much...
good fight scene.
It was a very cool fight scene. We had... Howland Reed there. That was Miro's father in the trenches of the scene, and Edward tells Sir Arthur Dayne and the Lord Commander Gerald Hightower to stand down and ask why they weren't at the Trident. So a lot of this is harkening back to the stories we've heard offhanded but never got to see, and this is kind of a perfect example, like how this universe could possibly end up having maybe some spin-offs regarding a lot of the stuff that maybe happened prior to the Season 1, and maybe stuff with Robert's Rebellion and like the Mad King. Mm-hmm. So we may see more of that. That'd be interesting to see that.
Bran tried to talk to his dad, and he's like, oh no, it's the wind. It's like, yeah, bullshit, it was the wind. He turned exactly when he heard me say my dad's name.
Right. So Ed and his crew fighting against the two Kingsguard, with Sir Arthur saying, and now it begins, to which Eddard replies, now it ends. The two sides clash, with Dayne making short work of a few of Ned's Northmen. Sir Arthur slowly cuts down the number of Northmen, but Sir Gerald falls to Ned's blade, and then eventually Sir Arthur duels Eddard in a one-on-one battle, and then Bran expresses his shock at Sir Arthur's skills. He's got some skill, and when it seemed like Ed is about to die, just in the Sean Bean fashion, Howland Reed comes from the back and stabs Sir Arthur Dayne in the back. And this is a shock if you don't remember or don't keep track, because I don't remember. But I know that that Ed Stark told the story about him taking down this Arthur Dayne in a swift fashion. By himself, but it seemed like, to the shock of Bran, that this story was a little bit overplayed. As much as like everybody else, it sounds a lot cooler that you say you took him down by yourself. Not as cool if someone stabs him from the back and you finish the job.
It's Game of Thrones universe, man. I mean, it can't be like an actual traditional, like, classic mythological fight.
I like the scene, though. I like how they pretty much kind of state, like, in this universe, a good chunk of the stories you'll end up hearing may be bullshit, and other times they may be true. Mm-hmm. I like how they did that, but partially, he did kill him, but that's not necessarily all by himself. But in the end, you see him kind of visibly uncomfortable at winning it this way. But he unhesitantly delivers the killing blow to the
Incapacitated.
Oh God, it's early for me. As Bran is shocked and he heard that the tales of the duel and never expected his father to stand for such things. So he runs down up to the tower and hearing a woman scream. I'm not sure who this woman is. I don't remember this part.
Ned's sister, I think.
Ned's sister. Is this? It could be. I don't know if she was giving birth or something, or something was going on up there.
Yeah.
That I'm not sure. Did his sister die? Did she get killed or something?
I think she dies in childbirth.
Okay. So I remember. I think in season 1, he was down there, down in the kind of like their cathedral where they have all the bodies of past members of the family. I think she was in there. She had her own statue, something like that, or her own coffin. Lyanna, his sister.
I mean, it's entirely shrouded in mystery, so it could be a number of things.
So, but yeah, as it seems like we've established that possibly Bran can make contact from beyond the past. And he got taken out of this flashback because he wasn't able to stay any longer. And the Ravens further states that he's waited 1,000 years for Bran to arrive, and Bran will not share the Ravens' destiny. But before he can leave the cave,
becoming an old man,
Bran must learn everything.
God, thank you for being specific, you old bastard. You know that I'm glad that we could narrow it down just a little bit.
He must learn algebra, geometry, and all that stuff.
You must learn C++.
I'd be curious to see if we'll get something that maybe evidently will affect the Game of Thrones universe. Maybe he'll have. It'll be. This is just all theories, but it could be. It could be something impactful that Bran could maybe have a part of in the Game of Thrones universe. He could possibly, since we kind of established that it wasn't the wind, and you can make some sort of contact to people even by going back in the past. Maybe there's some things you can do that maybe will alter the future, and maybe we could get Sean Bean back alive. This is just something that could happen. It could certainly change the tides of war.
Oh yeah, hey, it would be nice to bring back a Sean Bean. Like, listen, he didn't die completely this time. Maybe he'll just be actually like he'll come back as Trevelyan from James Bond, just like a different Sean Bean. Like, we have to cycle through the different Sean Beans who have died. Like, that'll take ages.
Ages and countless movies.
And for Bran, I feel like this is definitely setting up probably the final act of Game of Thrones, where they're setting up the Stark families who are... Oh, and we have another member of the Stark family who comes up later in the episode, but, I think they're starting up the very ends of the setting up of all the different factions that lead to the final battle, probably with the White Walkers.
Mm. Yeah, it'd be interesting. That's the only logical thing I could see from this point on that Bran could have some contribution for. He may be able to advance his abilities further, or maybe go against the three-eyed raven, and he may be able to possibly change the past. Like he mentions that the past cannot be changed, but he may be able to. Maybe at some point we'll have a pivotal scene where maybe be able to change the past and have a deep impact on what's going on now.
He needs Dominic Monaghan to come over and just be like, "Look, you can't change the past. You can only set it in one particular example."
We'll have to see. I mean, there's anything can happen at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So we're off back to King's Landing.
Yes, indeed. And then we have Tommen talking with the High Sparrow about letting Cersei see Marcella.
And with a stern, strong voice, he speaks and demands.
Yeah, he's like, "Listen, this is my mom's daughter. Like, you need to let her see her kid." And they have an argument about, like, listen, she still needs to stand trial. And Tommen's like, you stripped her naked and paraded her through the city. How is that not, like, punishment?
Right. And there's that scene with Tommen, and then we get a scene with this at the small council meeting. We had the Maester Pycelle complaining about Qyburn and his experiments regarding Gregor Clegane being reanimated in a way after that duel he had with Oberyn, and it seems like he's still comprehensive, but it seems more like a silent character. Not certainly a Bane kind of character from Batman Forever, but still kind of coherently. Batman Forever.
You. I would love for him to speak like that, like as soon as he opens his mouth, just like he challenges me to a fight to the death. Of course.
Wow.
I was born of dead flesh. You only inherited it.
Right. Mm-hmm. Cersei and Jaime and the Mountain enter the room, and they're at the small council meeting, and Cersei replies that she is the queen, only to be corrected by Olenna that the rightful queen is the one married to the king, and that Marjorie is Marjorie's mom or grandmother.
Yeah, her grandmother
is the one. Marjorie is the one who fits the description. Jaime then argues that he is the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard and also has the right to attend the meeting. Pycelle admits that Sir Gerald Hightower once sat on the council, but dismisses this due to the Mad King's eccentricities. Oh man! And Cersei accuses Kevin of not caring. Kevin is man. What a. Is it Kevon or Kevin? Is that
it's George R.R. Martin speak. It's just like one letter removed from the actual word.
So it was Tywin's brother, which is Cersei's uncle.
Tyluse.
So Cersei accuses him of not caring about their daughter Myrcella. Well, Jaime appeals to the bigger picture and urges Kevin to take action against Ilaria Sand and the Sand Snakes, who have taken over Dorne after eliminating House Martell. Displeased with the newcomers, Sir Kevin and the small council decide to leave. Rather than if they decide to stay, they're just going to leave.
Yes.
And have a meeting somewhere else.
They're all like childish. Like, what the heck? Like, fine, if you're here, then we won't be here. And they all leave like, we have a religious rebellion. Do you think you can sit your ass down and maybe we can hash some of these problems out?
They have a terrible thing going right now. Like, you got to deal with these freaking annoying high sparrows, and no one's doing shit about it. They pretty much have taken over.
Oh my god!
I don't know. What the hell? Why did the Kingsguard can't take them out? I don't understand.
It's weird. Like it's also an endemic problem to not for the budget of the show not being able to show how many Kingsguard there are versus how many sparrows there are.
Yeah,
and if like,
I'll go ahead.
No, it's like if they happen to show like there are like thousands of sparrows and only like hundreds of Kingsguard, then that would make sense that they need to be smart about it. And they need to win over the people, and they can't really attack the High Sparrow. But because of how intrinsically smaller the nature of the show is, by just the fact of its budget is not a feature-length movie, they need to reel it in a lot. And because of that, you don't get the sense of the sparrows really infiltrating every single part of the of King's Landing.
Yeah, that makes it a little bit more questionable as to why there's not much of a kind of a backlash against them, because right now it just seems like they're not doing anything or choosing not to do anything at this point, maybe because they're afraid of the numbers they have. But we really haven't been made clear, other than just vague general terms, that about just talking about how people who are like no one or have nothing are able to overthrow an empire. That's kind of like the only line we've gotten regarding that. So I need a specific visual representation of this, like the Stannis, like the Stannis battle against the against the other army. I need something like that for me to understand.
Yeah, I mean, television, film, they live with visual information, and when you can do that, it will help much more easily than with truncated dialogue.
And I think they'll be able to. I mean, I think that they can do it. I mean, a lot of these high sparrows don't even have any armor on. They don't got no armor. You gotta get killed easily. They got sticks and crossbows.
Listen, it's Jonathan Pryce. He's not exactly an MMA fighter. Just like that, cut off his head, someone else, another high sparrow, and then they'll follow him.
Yeah,
Alfred Molina. Get Alfred Molina to be the new high sparrow.
Oh, that'd be freaking awesome. That'd be
with the Doc Ock arms.
Yeah, with the Doc Ock arms. That'll be the climax of the battle.
Just tossing people through the air.
Yeah, but again, we'll have to see if there'll be some sort of conclusion to that. There's got to be something. They got to have some kind of battle going on later down the line with them to take back King's Landing in some way. But I mean, they still got to deal with like the Sand Snakes and everything taking over Dorne.
It's apparently a lot of people are not happy about the Dorne subplot. For big fans of the book, because apparently it actually simplified and got rid of a lot of the interesting subplots and side elements, to the point where there are fans actually petitioning for people to fund their $20 million fan video. I guess that would actually incorporate a lot of those details. I think they're doing a Kickstarter of sorts for a fan video, and they would do a short movie about the entirety of the Dorne subplot that was cut out. And that probably ain't going to happen. But it's interesting to see that a lot of people are upset about the fact that Dorne kind of got shafted in this entire affair.
Yeah, from what I remember, there was certainly a lot more that occurred rather than just what we saw. It certainly felt and seemed like, from a lot of the memory standpoint of what I read, that there's a lot more going on to Dorne than just what we saw. It was just so quickly, and just I understand the reasonings. I guess they're just trying to simplify things a lot more, and there's just so much stuff going on. But if you're gonna be doing that and involving them, you should commit to it rather than just simplifying it. Because I know there was a lot more going on than just that, and just how quickly that ended, and just such the lackluster. It was so. It was so funny and also sad to see the son of the high lead of Dorne just get killed off like that. It was just so just so lazy. Yeah. It was
like, wow, that went nowhere.
That was so lackluster.
I mean that's I don't know if that's supposed to tie into Game of Thrones, like anticlimactic revelations, or the fact that it's just like, we don't really know how to write this character, so we're just gonna kill him off like this.
I think that was just that situation, because a lot of the battles like that didn't end like that. I mean, I know we've gotten hints of like battles not occurring as to what they were initially thought out as, but at least they weren't as. At least that wasn't as uneventful as that freaking kill, man. Yeah,
that was a really unsatisfying scene. I'm not gonna lie, just because, just like, you eliminate a potentially very interesting character, and then you end it on like a joke of like, he was nothing, and then that's it.
Yeah, that's essentially what it was, man.
Why do we spend so much freaking time with this? Unless they have some sort of faction of Dorne where they're angry that they essentially committed, patricide, where they killed the king and his son, and then the Dorne becomes unstable and then eats itself from the inside. Unless they do something like that, then their deaths have no meaning.
Yeah. So we move on to Meereen in the Great Pyramid.
Let's not.
Well, let's do it just for the sake of this.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Let me know what you thought, because I kind of glanced over this. In the Great Pyramid, Varys holds a court, and when the Unsullied bring in Vala, a prostitute who is in league with the son of the Harpy.
Never mind. Yeah, you're right.
She had seduced and murdered several members of the Second Sons and the Unsullied. Vala is defiant and states that she opposes the new regime imposed by the Unsullied and the Second Sons as illegitimate. She became a prostitute out of the patriotic fervor for the old ways. Varys assures Vala that he has no interest in torturing her and decides to strike a deal. In return for revealing who is funding the Sons of the Harpy, he offers her and her son safe passage on a ship bound for Pentos with a bag of silver to start a new life. Varys warns her that if she doesn't agree to the offer, she will be executed for her crimes, leaving her son orphaned. So there was some play on words there as to kind of, rather than just saying, I'm not gonna torture you.
I don't torture you. Yeah, it gets us information, but not the right one.
Right. So I mean, you either take this deal, or you're just gonna have you're not gonna have much going for you and your son at this point. So it was more of like this is your options. You decide where you want to go from here, kind of thing. Very interesting scene. I like the part where he just gingerly kicks the bag of coins. Like, I'll have one of the guards carry this for you. I can't carry all this for you.
He's this was. I like the fact that this was a Varys scene. I'm sorry, I was Marine. Yeah, I like those scenes of him like realizing like, yes, I'm not a torturer. You know what I do? I make people happy, and when they're happy, then we get the right information because we keep making them happy, and happiness is a much better motivator than pain. And I like the fact that he does seem to have a genuine concern about children. It's like, no, children are innocent in all this. It's the adults who carry the onus of being manipulative or evil, and they are just casualties of it all. And
right.
I did like the scene where it was negotiating without negotiating. Just like, listen, I want you to be happy. Just like, if you don't tell us, then we're going to have to do this because we know you did this, but I'd like to not do this. So if you tell us, then, hey, then we get to, if you tell us any information, you get to be free and you get to go off to a new life. And the woman says something to the extent of like, oh, if I tell you, you'll kill me. And then if I tell you, they'll kill me. And then if I don't tell you anything, they'll kill me. And then just like the alternative, it's like, hey, listen, just like you'll sail off to a new place, you'll be all good. Just let us know.
Yeah, and move over to Tyrion. As he passes the time by engaging Miss Andal and the Grey Worm in a small talk, which is so awkward because they got nothing to say at each other. None of them have anything in common.
Patrols, what we do on patrol, what we see on patrol. So that would be a report, not an actual discussion.
Yeah. That was an interesting scene. Before Tyrion can embark on his drinking game, Varys returns and informs him that the wise masters of Yunkai, the good masters of the Astapor, and the free city of Volantis has been secretly funding the Son of the Harpy, which seems like insurmountable funds here for the Sons of the Harpy. While Grey Worm advocates attacking the cities, Miss Andal advises against it since it would leave Marine unprotected. Using this information, Tyrion asks Varys to use his little birds to send him a message.
Mm-hmm. And I like the fact that they use the birds, the little birds, as sort of their quotational. The characters who are just like the informants of orphans or poor people who go out and spread the city for information. And then from that scene, we cut to the next scene.
And we cut to the next scene, which is in the Dothraki Sea. I was just looking up the people that were funding them, and I believe, from what I recall, the Wise Masters was the Wise Masters the folks that Davos and Stannis went to for money, and like these guys got money. These are like pretty much funding the entire freaking kingdom. Mm-hmm. So that tells you that the amounts of money they have, and that being one of the parts of funding the Sons of the Harpy is going to be interesting. See where they go from there.
I remember that scene where Davos, removed his glove. It's like, so this is the Lord of Light, the true Lord. Like, see, all these fingers I lost, he still kept me on as his right hand. And they're just still like, yeah, we're not going to fund you. Thanks for showing us your gross hand, though. Thank you.
That made our day. So the Dothraki Sea, we move on to Daenerys walks the Dothraki towards the vast Dothrak. And
I can't stand Daenerys in this scene.
I've been having issues for her for at least a season or two with kind of her progression as a character.
Yep.
And her spunk that she's got there, and her entitlement.
That is the key word, entitlement, for this scene.
She's ushered inside the temple of the Dash Khaleen and Khal Moral's Blood Riders. Upon entering the temple, the high priestess of the Dash, Khaleen, orders the Blood Riders to leave and strips her naked, giving her a robe which the Dash Khaleen wear. As Daenerys puts on her new clothes, she tells the high priestess that she will soon regret what she has done, as she was the wife of Khal, the queen of Meereen, and the mother of dragons.
Subscriber to ESPN magazine.
Follower of BuzzFeed and the Blade Tongues podcast.
I am subscribed to the YouTube channel of Double Toasted. How dare you?
What else here?
And she's essentially shut down by the lead here, who's like, "Listen, you either learn to like this place or you die, and we don't even know if you're going to be accepted." Mm-hmm. We choose where the cows pillage and destroy and steal from, so we have power. But if you're not willing to do, we don't even know if you're going to be one of us, because we still have to vote on whether or not you're doing that. And of course, Daenerys has got a tood saying like, "How dare you treat me like this?" Just like, listen, Daenerys, I love you, but you need to just not talk right now.
Mm-hmm. What else? Just kind of reviewing. Well, she talks about how she was with a call too, and she thought she would conquer the world as well, as she's thought too with Khal Drogo. And just as Daenerys thought she would be allowed to join them, when Dany expresses her confusion, the priestess points out that the Khaleesi are supposed to return to vast Iraq immediately after the Khot's death, but Daenerys went out into the world. She explains that all Khalasars have gathered to decide which cities will be sacked and which tribes will be enslaved, and now they have to decide what to do with Daenerys for not coming for the Dash Khaleen after Khal Drogo died. So we'll have to see where her punishment is for not fulfilling the traditions of the calls upon Khal Drogo's death. There we go.
Yeah, it's a situation for Daenerys where it's like, listen, I could kind of feel for you when you were captured and all the Dothraki warriors were just like, like white hair on her head. Wonder if the carpets match the drapes. Like, and then she didn't say anything because she was smart in that instance. It's like, no. You gather up your intel and then you wait to use it for the right moment. And then this time, I just felt like she had absolutely no play. She had no reason to do this. And it was a moment of impertinent impatience that she really should not have had, especially with this type of culture, which she should have known.
Yeah, that's certainly something that she played her cards out too quick, and we'll have to see what the consequences are for that as we progress on to the next episode coming up. So we move on to Bravos. A blind Arya resumes her training as the new daredevil.
The girl who is training her obviously hates her. She is her bullseye, and she is just like it. Thankfully, it's a truncated montage scene where it's just like, oh, okay, she gets beaten up, and then she gets questioned about who she is, beaten up a little bit more, but she's getting better. Then questioned about who she is, and keeps going back and forth until she like can defend herself incredibly well with no eyes, and then starts. She says something to make the other girl incredibly angry, which I was like, "Haha, you go, Arya."
So yeah, she continues sparring as well. She's answering questions about her family and the Hound. Arya admits to leaving the Hound to die instead of killing him. Despite wanting his death, the Wolf then interrogates Arya about the people on her list, as we heard before with her previous seasons regarding her distaste for these people who pretty much ruined her life and family. We got Cersei, Gregor Clegane, and Walder Frey. And the Wolf voices her disbelief that Arya's list is so short. But Arya counters by asking which name she wants to add. And Arya insists that she's no one. The Wolf does not believe her and then tries to hit her. However, Arya is able to deflect her blow and leap out of the way, surprising the Wolf. After confirming that Arya has mastered the blind sparring, Jaqen approaches Arya and offers to give her back her sight if she tells him her name, and Arya replies that a girl has no name. And then Jaqen then leads Arya to the well where he scoops a bowl of water, in which he offers her, and she is reluctant as others have drunk from it and died. But he says that if she's truly no one, there's nothing to fear, and then she drinks from the bowl and her sight's restored. And then Jaqen asks Arya who she is, and she replies that she is no one. Now she is no one with eyesight.
That's, this is an incredibly positive moment for Arya, so there's probably some very, very horrendous thing coming up on the horizon, but she gets her eyesight back.
Which is kind of what she's been working for at this point, and we were wondering if she was going to be blind the whole season, but now she has her sight back, and we have to see what happens on the next one, or what her next task would be, or what she's going to be assigned. Back at Winterfell, the Umbers, led by Small John Umber, travel to Winterfell to meet Ramsey Bolton, the new Lord of the Winterfell and Warden of the North. Small John and Ramsey chat about their experiences with their father. Small John mentions that his father, Great John Umber, is dead, but admits that he would have killed him if the opportunity arose. Ramsey denies murdering the late Roose Bolton and claims that he was poisoned by his enemies, but Small John doesn't bother to believe him, as we've mentioned before.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's gonna be hard to try to cover this up, because obviously Ramsey's got a reputation.
It's like, oh yeah, the guy who's crazy and likes to hunt people in the woods and has the banner of a skinned man alive. Yeah, sure. I'm gonna believe that someone poisoned your father and not you killed him.
Right. Small John has come to forge an alliance with the Boltons against Jon Snow and the Wildlings. However, he refuses to bow to Ramsey. Good on him.
Yeah, pretty much. There's nothing else he can do.
Citing the late Robb Stark's betrayal at the hands of Roose, Small John then reveals that he has a gift for Ramsey, who asks if it's a girl, hoping for Sansa Stark. Small John replies otherwise, and Umber guards enter the room with two hooded figures. The first turns out to be Asha, and the second is Rickon Stark, Ned Stark's youngest child. Asha and Rickon appear to be uncomfortable to find themselves in Ramsey's presence. When Ramsey asks Small John to verify Rickon's identity, an Umber retainer enters the room carrying the severed head of the direwolf, the shaggy dog. And Rickon's expression of dismay confirms that it was his pet. Satisfied, a gleeful Ramsey then issues a sarcastic welcome to Lord Stark. Yeah, there we go. That's I
want Ramsey to die so badly because he laughs at the death of a dog or a wolf or a man's best friend, either dog or wolf. He can die. Yeah, that's fine. Just he has now replaced Joffrey as my most hated.
It's officially confirmed now, huh?
Yeah, when you cross the line when when you either kill a dog or see a dead dog, and then gleefully have just like a great time. It's like, ha ha ha! This dog is dead. You die. You must die. You must die immediately, and you must die painfully.
I would think that that the opinions would have swayed way early on, or maybe recently with.
It was neck and neck with
feeding his mother-in-law and baby brother to the dogs.
Okay, they're actors, and they chose to do this. Dogs are just like innocent, and they're good, and they play the game. Like the thing about his stepmother is that she should have understood the situation she was getting herself into, and the kind of person that Ramsey is. Really, it's her fault. I see that coming.
Oh well. Honestly, it's a lot more political than anything else. Usually, it'll just go along with anything, especially with the Greyjoys. You know, you remember how the Lord Greyjoy was. He was just like, he would just give away his daughter just like that for any kind of any kind of part into the bigger game of any kind of lordship or anything like that. So that was more like a political deal than anything else.
True.
So I'm sure she had no say. I'm sure she was happy to be married off to somebody, but in the end, it didn't pan out too well for her, as we found out in the last episode. But yeah, this is again. I mean, it seems like it pays to be a heartless, villainous son of a bitch, because you're getting so lucky with all this. It seems to be in your favor a good chunk of the time. Being able to acquire yet another Stark. He's just on a roll, man. He's catching like rare Pokemon left and right. And using regular Pokeballs.
I mean, if you count Theon as a Stark, then he's had him pretty much since the beginning, because he's had Theon, he's had Sansa, and now he's got Rickon back. It's like there's always got to be a Stark suffering at the hands of Ramsey in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I'm curious to find out more about where they were captured or where they were at, because I know that
haven't they not shown up in the books for a while.
Something like that. I have a vague memory on it. It's just I'm only selective as to what I remember for what had occurred. But I know that they split up. You
blacked out those memories because they're so terrible.
I know that they split up. I could look it up for more information, but I know that they split up as we saw in the show, and it'd be interesting the back and forth between. I know Asha's a pretty interesting character, and I know she's like, I know she'll probably, as we saw, there was a season back where she seduced. I don't know who she seduced somebody, and then she ended up killing them or getting some. There was something that she was doing. Mm. You remember?
No. There's so many subplots here. I lose track of them all.
There's a subplot in the show. She did something, and she ended up helping out the Starks in a way.
They're with
Asha seduced Theon, claiming that she wanted her freedom. While he sleeps, she freed Bran and Rickon, and Hodor escaped with them. So that's what happened. That's what happened on season 2.
Gotcha.
So who knows?
I don't remember that because it was so long ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago. So she's got some spunk. So she may. Who knows? It'd be a long shot to say that she kills Ramsey, but it'd be cool.
Yeah,
see that happen, but she's got some spunk.
Be awesome.
She won't take shit from anybody.
No, she will not.
But she'll smartly not take shit from anybody.
Yes, Daenerys should have learned a couple lessons from her.
I'm very interested how that progresses. I mean, as we see, it's an older Rickon, so he kind of, as we last saw him, he was more of it was a child pretty much, and he actually felt bad. You actually felt bad for what he was going through, even though he was kind of like in the progressions of like kind of like being a kid. So he was more of just kind of going with the flow. I mean, it was sad to see him splitting off from his brother at the time.
Yeah, and that's the biggest kind of unspoken problem with, not problem, but concern of the show where in Lost, the reason why they got rid of Walt in the show is because the actor was aging so fast. You can't keep child actors that young in the show without it being addressed or written off because they grow up so fast. And so Bran and Rickon being kind of like seasons separated from where they last went was kind of a smart move, because now they're like teenagers, late teenagers, and now they got a lot more responsibility to go for. And it was kind of a shock to see Rickon back and like, oh yeah, you were really old. I could see your 5 o'clock shadow, buddy.
Yeah, I thought this episode was pretty solid. As I'm just waiting for a lot more build up to arise and have some sort of payoff. It's really, I guess it's really too early to be expecting something major to happen, especially with just this major event that just kind of occurred with Jon Snow's resurrection. We still have yet to kind of have more of a follow up on how if any, if it's changed him or not. Small note about this episode: 18 of the 27 starring cast members appear in this episode.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't think we got any glimpses of Peter Baelish on this episode, but I like to see more of him eventually as the season progresses. It'd be cool to see Bran again. I like Bran.
Bran! I love Bran.
I don't know how that would correlate, but it'd be cool to see him. Beyond that point, that is, quite frankly, all that was there in this episode. Certainly, I'd like to see more of Jorah, see where his grayscale progresses at this point.
I'm telling you, I'm calling it now. He's going to become the Thing.
He's going to become
from
the
Fantastic
Thing.
Four.
That's probably what's going to happen.
Yeah. Yep. So, wait, what else was there?
That was it. That was the end of the episode. That was the unveiling that Ramsey has his hands on another Stark boy in his possession. That's how the episode ends.
Welcome back.
Is the gift that he receives. So this may be good enough for him to team up with the other guy, the Small John Umber, the Umbers.
I like the fact that he's like, I'm not gonna take the knee. I'm not gonna do any of that traditional stuff because, frankly, you don't believe in that, and I don't believe in that. So we're gonna, be bastards together. And I have a feeling that the ultimate message of the show is, when you get rid of all of the good guys and the only people you have left are the jackasses, you have to remember you're dealing with only the jackasses.
Right. It was a solid episode. I believe it was interesting. It was cool to see a resolution to Jon Snow's kind of career as the Night's Watchman, and we got to see sort of kind of a satisfying conclusion, depending on who you are, to the folks responsible for his death. It was an interesting scene to see. It had to have happened. I couldn't imagine it kind of conclude any other way. I figured John would be too much of a nice guy to kind of just let them pass on this, but he was more disappointed and more vengeful than from what I gathered from that scene.
We did before when he chopped off that other guy's head for cowardice, and the other guy was begging for mercy, and he was like, "Listen, I'm a nice guy, but we all held to the same rules, and if we don't follow those rules, then we're no better than anyone else."
That's true. So that kind of more doesn't make it easier, but it certainly justifies his reasoning and actions to have proceeded with this hanging, because they evidently did kill him, pretty much breaking the oath. I guess you could kind of say the same about him, I guess, with allowing the wildlings on the wall, but it was like it was a sink or swim kind of decision at the point. So he felt he did what was right. Man, obviously Same thing goes for those four that got hanged. You know, Alistair Thorne, as much as of a jackass he is, he had his reasoning as well, and I respect him for sticking with. If he had to do it again, he would. If he had to die, he would die again.
Yeah, it's
like,
death is very cheap, though.
Yeah, it's certainly it's certainly cheap. Just because it happens so frequently on the show, so that's why I didn't feel any kind of. I didn't get any satisfaction out of it because it's kind of part of the game of the Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, unless there's a very more meaningful character, it's going to have certainly some impact. It would be a shame. It'd be a shame to see Tyrion get killed in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, Tyrion didn't have a whole lot to do this episode, but I have a feeling that they're going to build him up to something very, very good.
Yeah, we still see the ramifications, or gonna see what would happen, what's going on with the dragons too that were in captive, that were released off chains. I think they're still hanging out down there, but I don't know. Hasn't been made clear for me, anyways, if they're still down there or they just ended up flying out of there. We'll have to see.
Yeah, it's another. I feel like the same way of the previous episode, where it's a good deal build up for a lot of things. At least, hey, Thorne got to die, which we all wanted to see. Ollie got to die, which I wanted to see.
Right.
We saw Shaggy Dog's head, which I didn't want to see, and made Ramsey my most hated character.
Yeah, all the direwolves are pretty much all dead now, I think. Besides John's direwolf.
Yeah, they're all dead except for was it just Snow?
I think just Snow, man. I mean, Sansa's direwolf got killed. I think that was through through Theon's hands, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's this is another build-up episode, and
it's Ghost, actually.
Ghost, yeah, and I certainly hope that the next it feels a little bit more like they're going somewhere, because the previous episode's build up and this episode's build up. I kind of really want to see something really take place. Like, oh, this is a changer for everything.
Right. Just looking through more info on the direwolves.
Mm-hmm. There's Shaggy Dog, Wolf Lady. I think Summer. I think was Bran's.
Summer's Bran's direwolf, and then Nymeria was Arya's direwolf, and Ghost's John's. I mean, we established Shaggy Dog. Mm-hmm. Rickon's, we just saw his head in this last episode. Grey Wind was Rob's direwolf, which is deceased, and Ladies is deceased.
Mm-hmm.
So we got that. I don't know if Bran's direwolf still alive. We know Ghost is alive. I don't know about Arya's direwolf.
I thought it ran away.
I'm just looking towards the information on season 1. is currently running loose somewhere in the Riverlands. Her exact whereabouts are unknown. So she's out there somewhere. Maybe a spin-off. We'll see where she's at.
There'll be a spin-off show.
Yeah, so there's like 3 of them right now that we know. Two of them that we know are alive. I don't know about Summer. Bran's direwolf. It may be with them, but maybe not. I'm not sure. I don't remember.
It's also very expensive to put those direwolves on screen.
That's true. I mean, I can imagine even the dragons are, I'm sure, expensive as well, which is why we don't see much of them right now. So unless they use it for like a big payoff. I'm waiting to see the scene where they just come swooping down and just burning all the calls around that area, and then Daenerys just goes, and then Tyrion's on top of the dragon, come to the rescue.
So, like the Eagles in any of Tolkien's work, it's like whenever we need like a situation resolved, dragons.
Yeah, that's right. That's pretty much it.
Mm.
But yeah, this is the pretty solid episode. It's still a lot more to come, and more to see what occurs this season. So what have I gathered from this? Is the Oathbreaker? The Oathbreaker, I would assume, would have to be just pretty much those involved. They're the Oathbreakers, as the title of this episode suggests.
Probably Jon. Just like Jon is now, like his watch has ended. So, like it's oath breaking, but it's legal oath breaking. Like I have broken my oath because I have died. Therefore, I'm no longer bound by the oath.
Yeah, that works too. I wouldn't make any kind of. Yeah, that's probably the closest to the meaning of this episode's name. I wouldn't mention anything with Ned Stark because it didn't really have anything to do with.
We don't know the context.
Keeping his oath in the context, so it seemed more of like relating to Jon and everything that happened in Castle Black. I'm trying to see how many episodes we have this season. So we're on the third episode.
Don't they usually have 13 episodes per season?
Roughly 4.
Probably 10 more.
8, 9. We have so it's 10 episodes in total. We have 7 episodes left this season.
Yeah.
With if the schedule is on point, we have the season finale on June 26th. Crazy to think that we're already like 3 episodes in already, and this season premiered like on by near the end of April 24th. Crazy. So, what can we have to expect next episode? So I'm going to go off the title of the episode. We have Book of the Stranger. Let's keep that in mind. Tyrion strikes a deal. Jorah and Daria undertake a difficult task. Jaime and Cersei try to improve their situation. Brief description of the next episode. What it can mean, we'll have to wait and see. It's going to be interesting to see more progression. Maybe see some other characters we haven't seen yet. Maybe some more Peter Baelish included in that episode.
Mm-hmm.
I always like seeing him on there, so it's always interesting to see.
Yeah, get some Littlefinger.
Get some Littlefinger.
Kentucky Fried Littlefingers.
But yeah, that'll be just 4 days from now. I'm excited to check that out. We will be absolutely doing another review of this very soon, and we'll have another regularly scheduled Bloody Thumbs podcast when we have more topics to discuss, more games to play, to kind of get together on that. It was nice to be able to do this review and discussion with you, CH, on this lovely 3rd episode of the season of Game of Thrones.
Oh, it's my pleasure, good sir. I'm glad to talk with you about it.
May wonderful fortunes befell us, and more discussions to come. But that is about it.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to our Game of Thrones review and discussion. We look forward to seeing you guys on the next episode of Game of Thrones, as we've briefly described being the episode Book from a Stranger.
Mm-hmm.
Book of the Stranger.
Book of the Stranger. It could be a good suggestion for someone in the library, or it could be a dangerous Necronomicon. Who knows?
It could be Hocus Pocus. Who
knows? Love it.
Who knows? But yeah, we'll be back again next week for another discussion and review of the next Game of Thrones episode. So appreciate you guys for listening. Feel free to comment on this podcast. Let us know what you thought of this episode, or what is your predictions? What are you expecting to see in the next episode? What can we expect to see? Hell, and even in the finale. I mean, it's not far off. I mean, before you know it, the season's over. We're going to be waiting for another season and see how the finale concludes. Will we get a satisfying conclusion to the season? What more can we expect from next year? There's only so much discussions to be had, and it's all available to be had in our comments section on BloodyThumbsPodcast.com. You can check us out on iTunes under Bloody Thumbs Podcast. If you want a free audiobook, or you want to be starting to read some of that or listen to some of that Game of Thrones, you can get a free month of Audible for a month, 30 days, 31 days, depending on how short the month is. but a month of Audible, and you can get a free audiobook from us by visiting the URL audibletrial.com/Bloody Thumbs. You get a free audiobook on us, and it'll help us out as well tremendously to pitch in on some of the costs that it takes to run the website and other expenses, and hopefully future prizes and contestants to be had, and for any kind of prizes and things will be given away, so that will help to fund that. If you guys are interested in that, feel free to hit up the shops. I'll put some links below. Buy some Bloody Thumbs merch. Anything that's feeds your desire for purchase, and show off your exciting fanaticism for the podcast and everything that we do. We appreciate it. Appreciate your support. Years running and years continuing is what our motto is for this podcast and everything that we do. If you haven't checked it out already, you can read up my thoughts on the episode of Kitman. It's on the front page of Bloody Thumbs podcast. I had a nice little what was that freaking show called? I think I had a nice Auction Hunters or whatever that damn show was on A&E. I had a nice meme on there about that episode. You can check that out and let me know what you thought about it. And that's pretty much it. You got any final words, CH?
Nope, all good. Yeah, that's it. I mean, I got nothing else to say except Game of Thrones. Looking forward to the next episode.
All right, so take it easy, guys. We'll see you on the next one. I'm Splinter47 signing off.
I am CH Gorog. Bye-bye.